All right, so have you ever thought about what goes into making video games or animated films?
Oh, all the time.
Like you've got the 3D models, right?
Hmm.
But how do they get that realistic look? You know, the kind that makes you feel like they could just step right out of the screen.
Ah, yeah, the textures. It's a whole process.
And it can get really complicated, right? Especially when you start talking about 4D texturing, making those textures move realistically with the characters.
Definitely, think about a dragon with scales that actually shimmer as it flies, or, say, a robot with lights that pulse as it moves. That's 4D texturing, bringing those creations to life.
That's incredible. And we've got this paper, Tex4D, zero-shot 4D scene texturing with video diffusion models.
Oh, wow. Sounds intense.
Yeah, it's by Jingzi Bao, Sueting Li, and Mingxuan Yang. They're from CUHK Shenzhen, NVIDIA, and UC Merced.
NVIDIA, huh?
Yeah.
They're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely. And this paper, it dives right into solving a huge problem for AIGC researchers. Creating those realistic and dynamic textures for animated 3D models, what they call mesh sequences.
Yeah, right. It's a massive pain point for 3D animators. So time-consuming.
Like trying to paint a moving target.
Yeah.
Except the target is this complex 3D object.
Exactly. And some of the AI solutions out there, they sort of miss the mark. Some can make textures look consistent from different angles, which is great for still images, but
But as soon as the object starts moving.
yeah, it all falls apart. The consistency just vanishes.
So they nail the photorealistic look for a still image, but then the video looks all messed up.
Exactly. And then you've got AI that's great for videos. The textures change smoothly over time, but they kind of ignore the actual shape of the object.
So the textures end up looking like they're just floating on top of the model, like a sticker or something.
Precisely. That connection between the texture and the 3D geometry is lost.
So it's like they're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle.
And that's where Tex4D swoops in with this really innovative approach, combining the best of both worlds. It uses those video diffusion models, known for their realistic, dynamic textures, but integrates knowledge of the 3D geometry. Keeps everything lined up perfectly.
It's like they've taken these two separate approaches and said, hey, why not use both?
Exactly.
Right.
They've created something truly remarkable.
Clicked already. Okay, so how does it actually work? What makes Tex4D so special?
Well, one of the key things is how it uses UV space. Imagine you have your 3D model, right?
Yeah.
UV space is basically a 2D map of that model's surface, like taking a 3D object and flattening it out.
Like a blueprint.
Kind of. Tex4D uses this UV map to synchronize the texturing process from different camera angles, so it looks consistent from any viewpoint.
So you're saying it's like taking photos from every angle and then stitching them together seamlessly?
Exactly. It creates a complete 360-degree view of the textured model. And then for handling movement, there's this thing called reference UV blending.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
It's about maintaining that consistency over time, even in areas that might be hidden during the animation. Think about, a character folding their arms.
Okay.
The texture on the inside of their arm has to remain consistent even when you can't see it. Otherwise, when they unfold their arms, it would look like the texture suddenly changed.
Oh, like a continuity error in a film. You'd notice that right away.
Right. Tex4D avoids that by cleverly blending the textures, and to make things even cooler.
Wait, there's more.
Tex4D even generates dynamic backgrounds for the scenes, blends those textured objects seamlessly into their surroundings.
Wow, they didn't hold back. It's not just texturing objects, it's about building entire environments.
Well, precisely. It creates a much more immersive and believable experience. It's really pushing the limits of what's possible with AI and 3D graphics. It's really something. It's not just automating the work. It's about making the creative process even better.
All this sounds amazing, but how did they actually test this out? What kind of 3D models were they working with?
Oh, they really put Tex4D through its paces, tested it on all sorts of animated meshes, humans, creatures, you name it. They even used output from a human motion diffusion model. So
Right.
really complex movements.
Whoa, so not just basic shapes, they were really challenging the system.
Oh, yeah. Wanted to see if it could handle real-world scenarios.
And the data sets, where did they get all these models from?
Used a mix, actually. Mixamo, Sketchfab, popular places for 3D models. Had to make sure Tex4D could adapt to different types of subjects.
Makes sense. So models, environments, movements, what about the results? Did Tex4D live up to the hype?
The results are incredible. I mean, really stunning. The textures are smooth, consistent, and they move so naturally with the models, look
Yeah.
totally realistic.
That's what I was hoping to hear. So it's not just theory, it actually works.
It works. And they compared it to other AI models, the ones we talked about, the ones that could only do multi-view consistency or temporal consistency, but not both.
Right, right.
Well, Tex4D blew them all away every time.
Whoa, that's impressive. So it wasn't just like, oh, this one looks better. It was actually measurable.
Absolutely. They had the data to back it up, quantitative analysis, the whole 9 yards.
Those researchers are thorough. I bet they didn't stop there. Did they do any deep dives into how Tex4D works?
Oh, you know it. They did what's called an ablation study. Basically, they tested each part of Tex4D to see how much it contributed to the overall success.
Ah, so like taking apart a car engine, see how each part makes it run?
Exactly. And they found that every single component mattered. For example, without the UV blending, the textures got all messed up over time, especially on things like a character's face.
Uh-oh. That's not a good look.
Not at all. And they also found that just using a plain white background, instead of generating a dynamic one, actually made the textures blurrier.
Huh. That's interesting. So every little detail really does make a difference.
Absolutely. That level of attention is what makes this research so groundbreaking.
So what's next for Tex4D? What are the researchers planning to do now?
Well, they've got some exciting ideas for the future. They want to explore ways to make the textures even more detailed and higher resolution.
So like zoom in and see every little detail.
Exactly. Imagine textures so realistic you could see like every pore on a character's skin or the weave of a fabric.
That would be insane. Anything else?
They also want to add more complex lighting and shading effects. That would take the realism to a whole new level.
So they're not satisfied with amazing. They want to go even further.
That's the spirit. It's about constantly pushing the boundaries and seeing what's possible.
It really does feel like a huge step forward for AIGC. But, what does this actually mean for people creating things in the real world? How can they use Tex4D?
The potential applications are huge. Game developers could create incredibly immersive worlds with characters and environments that look more real than ever.
Oh, man, I could already picture those epic battles with, like, photorealistic dragons and creatures. It would be mind-blowing.
Right. And filmmakers could use it to create stunning visual effects, bring fantastical creatures and landscapes to life.
It would change everything. And what about VR and AR? I feel like Tex4D could revolutionize those industries.
Totally. We could create experiences that blur the lines between the real and the digital worlds. Imagine stepping into a virtual world and feeling like you could reach out and touch anything, and it feels real.
That's incredible. It's not just about making things look pretty, it's about making them feel real, creating truly immersive experiences. It's really mind-blowing to think about all these possibilities. Like, this research has opened up a whole new world for creators.
It really has. And it's not just about, making things easier or faster. It's about what you can actually create now. Like, the creative potential is just enormous.
Like, remember those old computer animations? All blocky and pixelated. We've come a long way since then. And this feels like another huge leap forward.
Oh, totally. And it makes you think, what's next, right? Where is this all going? What will AIGC be like in 5, 10, 20 years?
Who knows? But I can't wait to see it. But for now, I think it's time to turn it over to our listeners. Get them thinking.
Yeah. So to everyone listening out there, whether you're an artist, a developer, or just someone with a creative spark, we have a question for you.
What would you create if texturing was no longer a problem? Like, what worlds would you build? What stories would you tell?
Let your imagination run wild. Tex4D has shown us that the possibilities are endless.
And maybe, just maybe, one of you listening will be the one to take this even further. Push those limits, inspire a new generation of creators.
Until then, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep diving deep.
And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.